Councilor Virtue. To Richard Owen, CEO and President of the
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'd like to extend and say something very similar, that we're delighted to have you join us today for this RUSF Lunch and Learn. As Stephanie said, I'm Richard Owen. I'm the President and CEO of the American Peanut Council. For those of you who don't know, the ABC is a trade organization that works on behalf of the entire peanut supply chain. And we're proud to be involved in the collaborative project that you're going to hear about for lunch today. The research that you'll hear about involves the Peanut Institute, the National Peanut Board, private sector peanut businesses, and the Peanut Innovation Lab at the University of Georgia. And I know over the next few minutes you'll be hearing more about and more from some of those organizations. The real purpose of today's program is to share with you the nutritional benefits of peanuts, first for all young minds, and then more specifically for the benefit of school-age children in Ghana. I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Samara Sterling. Dr. Sterling, I'll refer to her as Samara. She's okay with that. Samara is a nutrition scientist and health communicator with some real deep expertise in the use of plant-based nutrition for the prevention and management of chronic diseases. She serves as Director of Research and Nutrition at the Peanut Institute, where she leads scientific affairs, research protocols, and grant management. She's also actively involved in media in dealing with health communication, regulatory issues, and nutrition policy. Dr. Sterling is also a principal investigator for clinical nutrition and lifestyle interventions and functions as a nutrition consultant for community-based research projects that examine strategies to improve health and at-risk communities. Samara is passionate about translating science to consumer-friendly messages. She is described, and I would concur with this, she's described as a natural leader and mentor, and those skills allow her to engage patients, research participants, and community members in ways that motivate them to make changes in their health. With that, I'm happy to introduce Samara Sterling.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Samara Sterling. I'm a nutrition scientist and the research director for the Peanut Institute. And I'm really excited to be here with you today. Sorry I couldn't be there in person to talk about this topic that we are passionate about here at the Peanut Institute. And so the title of this short presentation is Peanuts, Hope for a Global Dilemma. So I wanted to start with a story that I read about just a few weeks ago. Miriam is her name, the mother of 38 children. She has a genetic abnormality that causes family planning methods to fail, and she was married off at the age of 12. And because of her abnormality, she gave birth to very many children, sets of twins and triplets and quadruplets. And unfortunately, her husband left her because of this. However, the consequence of that is that this family constantly lives in extreme poverty and struggles for food. Thankfully, they've had some help over the years. However, we see that the struggle for food, especially for a family like this, is very much real. And even though we don't necessarily see this kind of situation often within our world, right? Not everybody has this sort of genetic abnormality. However, we do know that families all across the world do have food insecurity or do need a little bit of help just to be able to feed themselves and their own families. And this is where we think that peanuts really have a role to play. As a low-cost, nutrient-dense food, peanuts really do help to offer that hope for families across the world who just need a little help in giving their children a healthy start. And of course, this Lunch and Learn is talking about ready-to-use supplementary foods, or RUSFs, of which peanuts play a major role in that, especially for school children. Now, one of the things that we know when it comes on to nutrition and the importance of that is that there's this critical window of opportunity in a child's life. We call it the first 1,000 days, right? But even after the first 1,000 days, this is really important. So we know about protein malnutrition, or what's called kwashiorkor. This is where we see a lot of wasting that happens when a child is not able to get the nutrients, especially protein, that they need to grow and to thrive. Now, some of the effects of protein malnutrition can be reversed. So, some things like change in skin pigmentation or muscle wasting, some of these can be reversed. However, there are some consequences that are irreversible, and that's because of the rapid body and brain development that takes place during a child's early years. So, it's really critical for us to intervene at a crucial point in life. And even after that 1,000 days, when a child is within the school setting, for example, we want to make sure that we're facilitating that growth and that development of both body and brain. I just mentioned protein, and many people ask the question, well, what's the function of protein anyway? I mean, in the developed countries, we don't really think about it as much, right? But as you can see from the last slide, it's very much consequential whether or not we have enough protein, and especially for children, because protein is involved in so many functions, including brain development, bone formation, muscle growth, rapid growth, and even immune system development, something or topic that has come to prominence, especially since the pandemic, right? And when kids fall short of their protein recommendations, we see them in a school setting experiencing more fatigue, poor concentration, and difficulty fighting infections. And it's one of the reasons why the American Academy for Nutrition and Dietetics recommends important protein sources like peanuts and peanut butter within a child's diet to help to meet their needs. Now, let's take a look at what the recommended protein intake is by life stage. And I've given you here for children and adolescents, so school age children. Let's choose males from the ages of 14 to 18 years. As you can see, that's the highest recommendation of protein per day, which is about 52 grams per day. When we compare that to what's in peanuts and peanut butter, we see that peanuts and peanut butter provide 15%, which is considered a good source of protein for children. And even younger than that, they'll get even more protein. So it's really important to add these to the diet. Another thing that you may not know is that peanuts contain a powerful amino acid called arginine. Now, of course, amino acids are the building blocks of protein. And so arginine, which is an amino acid, is higher in peanuts than in most other foods. It's a well-known growth hormone stimulator which controls linear growth. And in fact, there was a study that was done in Copenhagen that showed that children in a school setting that included more arginine from their foods, they actually had significantly higher growth velocity and significantly higher linear growth than those who did not. So again, we see the benefit of adding foods like peanuts and peanut butter to a child's diet. Now, in the context of ready-to-use supplementary foods, or RUSFs, what is the composition of that and how do peanuts play in? Well, again, this is a peanut butter paste, and the main ingredients within that include peanuts, milk powder, vegetable oil, a little sugar for palatability, and micronutrients, some of those really important vitamins and minerals that children need. Also, when you consider the dose, it's eaten straight from the pack as a supplementary food. So it's not a substitute for breast milk or other foods, but it does help to give that child a bit of a boost in both energy as well as nutrition, other forms of nutrition that they need throughout the day. And the great thing about RUSFs too is that we have really limited risk of microbiological growth just because of the low water content. And if you look at the nutritional values of each pack, you see that it's filled with nutrition. A lot of good calories in there, good source of protein. We also have some healthy fats in there for children. So it's a great thing to consider. Another thing, when we consider the advantages of RUSFs in schools, again, they can be used at the school, doesn't require medical supervision, doesn't have to be refrigerated or mixed with water. It has a pretty long shelf life. And I think one of the keys for the fact that this is a peanut-based product is the fact that it's low in cost and it's palatable for children. Because if you want to help a child eat better, you want to make sure that you're giving them foods that they will actually love to eat, right? Doesn't have to be cooked, doesn't require firewood, and as we've been talking about, peanuts have that unique combination of healthy attributes. I want to sort of shift and talk about an attribute of peanuts that you may or may not be aware of. And this is peanuts and peanut butter and how it affects our brain health, specifically for children. So peanuts contain a host of B vitamins, and these vitamins are specifically involved in not only producing energy, but proper brain function. In fact, one of the things that we know is that if we have a deficiency in B vitamins, this can lead to adverse effects on cognition. And so peanuts being an excellent source of that can help with brain function. There's some other nutrients in peanuts that are involved in specifically developing the brain of a growing child. So some of these nutrients include choline and copper and polyunsaturated fatty acids. These nutrients help to create neurons and neurotransmitters and help with the overall electrical efficiency of the brain so that a child is able to process better and think better and ultimately, as we hope, able to do a lot better in school. Here's a study that came out of the University of Barcelona in 2021, and it showed that college students who included peanuts and peanut butter in their diets daily for 6 months had better short-term verbal memory, lower anxiety scores, lower depression scores, and better total verbal memory in general. Why is this important and why is this so crucial? Is because we know, for example, short-term memory is one of those several capacities that are necessary for reading proficiency and also future mathematical abilities. We also know that if a child is stressed when you go into school, that's associated with lower academic performance. So to think that the foods that we eat can affect our brain health, not just cognition, yes, cognition, but also mental health, that's something that's unprecedented. That's something that's new within the literature. And us being able to see that peanuts and peanut butter play an important role is that it's pretty significant. The study also showed that those students who included peanuts and peanut butter, there was lower cortisol in their urine by the end of the intervention. Cortisol is a well-known stress hormone. And we know that, again, for students who are stressed, that's associated with lower GPA, lower academic achievement, even increased risk of dropping out of school and decreased motivation. So looking at the foods that we can eat, peanuts and peanut butter can certainly help with that. And the last thing that I'll wrap up with is just saying that peanuts also help children stay healthy overall. So when it comes on to increasing satiety and foods that help them to get throughout the day, peanuts contain the protein and healthy fats to help with that. And then another key for children, especially today, is helping with weight management. We're seeing increased rates of obesity and even early changes for heart disease in children early on in their lives. And so eating peanuts can help to reduce risk of some of those comorbidities. And I'll just mention here a few research studies that have showed that. One study showed that children who consume peanuts daily have significantly lower odds of metabolic syndrome. So things like high cholesterol, high triglycerides, things that increase their risk for heart disease. Children who consume peanuts and peanut butter are also less likely to be overweight or obese. It kind of helps with that homeostasis in our bodies. So it gives us the energy that we need, but sort of regulates it so that children are able to keep their weight. And of course, this is important for children because we don't necessarily want to put children on a diet if they are overweight or obese. So the preventive approach is really what we look for. And then the third thing is that overweight children who eat peanuts and peanut butter as snacks, they tend to experience significant improvement in weight at the end of 6 months. So again, we really do have a nutritious food option, and of course, within the context of RUSFs, to include within children's diet, specifically within a school context, to improve their nutrition as well as improve their health outcomes. So in conclusion here, peanuts provide nutrition to help with proper growth and development in children, with the added benefit of protecting against obesity and its comorbidities. And that's all I have for us today. Again, I just want to say thank you for having me and for being a part of this conference. And hopefully I'll be able to see many of you in person in the near future. Thank you.
Yes. Hey, everybody. I'm Mike Commissioner. Great to be here today. Thank you. I'm here because we're renewing our agreement with the University of Georgia Feed the Future Innovation Lab for Peanut. So we're pleased to be here. We're pleased to support the American Peanut Council and the Peanut Institute. And as we just heard from Samara, we recognize the important role that peanuts play in nutrition, including an important plant-based source of protein, healthy fats, and micronutrients, not just for the countries we focus on around the world, but right here in the United States. I know that as a fact for myself because I count out 12 peanuts every day for my afternoon snack. So, and I'm not just saying that. We have invested in the Peanut Innovation Lab since 2018, and we are pleased to have extended this 5-year research effort for another 5 years, starting in January of this year. The Peanut Innovation Lab is working on a number of issues important to the peanut industry. First, strengthening research capacity for peanuts, both in Africa, but also here in the United States, is critical to the mission of USAID investments. One result of this investment is improved peanut disease resistance in Africa, leveraging the latest genomic tools, which also provides insight and a base on which to learn for the U.S. peanut industry for improved peanut disease. We're pleased that the Innovation Lab is developing higher quality peanuts, including healthier oil peanuts, which would serve home consumption and industrial applications. And of course, the Peanut Innovation Lab has a strong focus on nutrition, which has brought us together today. USAID and the Peanut Innovation Lab are working to create greater demand for peanuts. So thank you for the opportunity to spend time with you today. We look forward to another productive 5 years with the Peanut Innovation Lab. So with that, I think I'm going to turn the podium over to Dr. David Hoisington from the University of Georgia and Director of the Peanut Innovation Lab.
I'll stand over here so everybody can bend their necks the other way. But no, it's really great to be with you today. And let me start out by thanking Richard and Stephanie and American Peanut Council for hosting this event. It's really great to get together and share some of the stories and projects that we've been working on. Let me also thank Mike, and I think I should recognize Rob Bertrand, who's the Chief Scientist at USAID as well, and Jim Gaffney, who's our activity manager, for their support and help in getting us this 5-year extension. I think it came in almost record time for many things that happen in the U.S. government these days, but we're greatly appreciative, and we're really working hard to figure out exactly what is our best activities going forward, what our strategies to build on the success we've had in these first years. We greatly appreciate that. Just before I turn the mic over to really the feature today, which is Dr. Mark Manary and the project that we were doing in Uganda, let me just give you a brief, quick overview of what the Peanut Innovation Lab is all about. As Mike mentioned, we have a number of very specific activities. We do these activities in partnerships. We have about 16 institutions here in the United States across 15 of the states that work together with partners overseas. We have almost 26 institutions in Africa, representing about 15 countries there. Our main focus right now and probably going forward in the next few years are really looking at countries like Senegal, Ghana, Uganda, and Malawi, which have become our focal points for moving technologies and innovations out into the regions. Our main focus areas look at, as Mike mentioned in his remarks, improving varieties. And these varieties need to withstand some very harsh conditions that the farmers that we work with in Africa are facing every day. But they need to build improved nutrition and new traits like disease resistance that are very important for them to be able to grow the grounds in the first place. We also look at agronomy packages and agronomy packages that farmers in those situations can adopt and use. Otherwise, they won't reap the benefits of all that genetics. It's actually in those varieties in the seed. We try to put those into packages that farmers can adopt and can then improve their production in their fields. We also work a lot on gender and youth. We recognize the important roles that they play in allowing households, allowing women and youth to really benefit in the peanut value chain. And so we're looking at things like time use and youth migration in the countries that we work in to understand what are those limitations for them, be them women, men, households, or youth, or children involved in peanut production, use, and consumption. And then finally, the kind of the subject of today, we actually are working a lot on the value of nutrition. What is the role of peanuts play in improving human health, nutrition, and many other factors that we see in terms of importance. And we've heard a lot from Samara on many of those factors that we've proven to be. And finally, we really want to build that local capacity in all the countries that we work, both here in the US, but as well in countries of Africa. And so we have a number of activities, from doing training workshops, doing in-person training. We have a number of materials, be it paper, infographic materials. We do a lot now on animated videos, virtual presentations. We even have a GroundNet Academy that gives virtual courses around the world in many different topics, including one that we just announced in conjunction with the American Peanut Council on food safety. I'm looking at many of those important aspects that people begin to use and consume peanuts more safely in these countries. So that's kind of a very quick overview. We do have some packets here at the table. You're welcome to pick one of those up. It has a lot more information about many of the projects that we're working on, and as well links to our website, which you can get more information about. We're here all for lunch, and feel free to reach out to me. Andy Rhodes is our assistant director. Kristen McHugh is our operations specialist, and Ellison Floyd is our communication specialist. So they can all answer the hard questions. I'm just here to give the speech. And so hopefully you have a little better idea of the breadth and scope. And we really are looking forward to working together with USAID and support all of our partners, including those here in this room and all in the industry here in the US, as well as our many colleagues, to really make sure that the people that we're working for around the world can really benefit from the power of peanuts. So with that as an overview, and I'll turn our attention to really the topic of today, and that is to hear a little bit about the study that we ran in northern Ghana. Dr. Mark Manary, who is a professor of pediatrics at Georgetown University in St. Louis, where I actually did my PhD, not in pediatrics, but in biology, was the principal investigator of this project for the last 4 or 5 years. And so I think we've got some really interesting findings that support a lot of what Samara was presenting. And so we wanted to take the opportunity to discuss that and get some feedback from everyone on how we could actually go forward with that kind of a project. The project, I won't spoil the story for Mark, so I'll let him describe what the objectives were and how we ran it. To introduce that project, we were able to produce a video recently of the program in Ghana. So I think we're going to start off by introducing that video, and then I'll turn the microphone over to Mark, and he'll give you more information about the project and some of the findings. Thank you very much for coming, and I look forward to good discussions today.
%67% of the population in sub-Saharan Africa lives in rural areas. Half the population growth in the next 25 or 30 years is going to come from Africa. The future is here in these rural areas, and the future is in these children. And these children, in order to succeed, they need good education, and in order to get good education, they need to get improved nutrition. And that's what the school feeding is about.
Sahango jae kuni maya jala shukuru maya jala shukuru ngwa tabandra deva sahapaya manu nyam kat jala shukuru Pong rabi kulang kana.
Kids are now focusing more on education, knowing that they're going to receive a good meal every single day that they're in school. So now the parent can focus on providing for the family and helping the family to grow.
These are our future leaders. And for them to be able to work and develop properly, they need all the right amount of nutrients that will promote proper growth and especially also for their brain to function very well. Granules will drastically make an impact in the school feeding program. And it is wonderful. Our children love it.
What we're providing here with the ready-to-use school food is something that includes all the nutrients, is a balanced, full meal, and it's been shown in some previous studies to enhance cognition.
Before the program, they are paying attention, but they find things hard to understand. But since the food program started, I can see that changes has come in my class.
It's one of the best things that has ever happened in the school year.
No, it's not simply a feeding program here. In our first year, there are research components where we are measuring the outcomes of what the feeding program is doing. We want our school food to set these children up for success in a variety of ways for the future. We're not just interested in filling their hunger today. We want to see that they grow taller, their mind is more capable, and their physical development is more advanced.
I'm so passionate to see everybody grow and grow well, and to see every human being reach its fullest potential. And I see the potential with granules.
What I want to do is I want to tell you about this school feeding program that we did, integrating the power of peanuts into school feeding. And I want to try to put it in a context that I know many of you are interested in, particularly those who say USAID. Next slide. Or is that my job here? So we've heard many of these things alluded to. I don't want to spend a lot of time on them, but peanuts have transformed food aid over the last 2 decades. And that's because peanuts have some properties that really lend themselves to that. And the first draw on peanuts isn't actually about the nutrition so much as it is about the food safety and the ability to deliver this food to a variety of settings. And so I was the first person to trial and use and develop ready-to-use therapeutic food. And that was 20-some years ago. And at the time when we chose our base, peanut base, it was because when I thought about what was in my cupboard, that wouldn't spoil after 6 weeks, it was peanut butter. It doesn't need any kind of special refrigeration and so forth. When you heard too, the low water activity of it makes it very food safe. And now, the peanut-based foods are the standard the world over for food aid. No, it's the wrong way. Here we go. But we're looking at a challenge this next 30 years. And the challenge basically is we're going to have a couple billion more people here on the planet. And half of them, as I've viewed in the video, are coming from sub-Saharan Africa. And we cannot absorb all of those people into rural Africa and still have a peaceful and prosperous planet. It means people need somewhere else to be able to make a living, find a livelihood. And in order to do that, there's got to be education. Literacy, simple kinds of education, not necessarily very complex. And what I've learned through the school feeding project the last couple of years is that there's two essential elements to a successful education program. And one of them is food. You have to have food at the school. You have to remove the motive that the child inherently overwhelmingly feels to get something to eat. In either food insecure areas, so people aren't always getting enough to eat every day, and so the children without any kind of food at school come late, we're looking for food, leave early, leave during breaks, food seeking behavior. So if you provide food, it's one of the two anchors that school needs to function. If you don't have food, you can't overcome the chaos with good intentions. And the other element that you probably are curious is for these successful schools is instructors that can relate and bond to the students. Somebody they can look up to, those students can see themselves in, which is not part of our project that we're addressing. So in background, I want to say that we've been working with school foods for a long time, and I want to highlight a program that is funded by the Hershey Company, which now has distributed in Ghana and Ivory Coast over 100 million rations. Okay, so this is not a pilot project or research studies that have a small average, but every day, 100,000 children are having food at school, courtesy of the funding of the Hershey Company, locally made by Project Peanut Butter Factories that we manage. And in an innovation lab that I'm also part of with Dave supports this with high quality clinical research. And when we talk about high quality, what I mean is quality enough to change policy and change practice. Okay, so when we talk about peanut foods were so transformative and this and that, those are all true and ideas. The way that we change practice is we show through very careful clinical trials, usually randomized, blinded, clinical trials, that something is superior to something else. And that's how we move the needle from good idea to good intervention. So we did a trial, and I want to share some details about that and some impressions as well. So we took 6 schools up in northern Ghana, who currently didn't have any kind of school feeding going on. And we, for a year, this is a study enrolled about 1,100 kids, but there were about 2,000 kids who were fed every day at these schools. And because we didn't, our age group was limited a little bit. First complete year, and those kids were randomized to receive either one of 2 types of peanut-based foods or porridge, which would be a very typical school food. And as we have seen at the bottom across there, there's the reasons we're drawn to peanut is because it can be prepared in a clean, sanitary, safe way. It doesn't have to be prepared on site at all. So we're not dependent on all kinds of vagaries that have to happen at every school where the school feeding is going on. It can be just happening in our factory. Peanuts are really strong taste. And if you know you're giving them enough vitamins and minerals for the day, I mean that's bitter and that's salty. And you can't do that with an equal volume of sugar or something like that. Nobody would really take that. So the peanut taste really lends itself to incorporation of small amounts of these micronutrients and has a long shelf life. And peanuts are grown all over sub-Saharan Africa. So what we saw in 6 schools, we took kids 5 to 12, and this is a snapshot of what's up with these kids. These kids are not malnourished. They're children who I would say are disadvantaged because they come from poor situations. There's no electrification going on in anybody's house normally. I know when we did our surveys, we were going to do cognitive tests on a tablet, and certainly less than 1% of kids had ever seen or touched a tablet for taking a cognitive test. And so, when we talk about our data, it's good to know that the process of randomly assigning people is absolutely key to that, because we can say, we think how much money you have in the house, and whether you're a boy or girl or this or that are important factors, but there's other things we don't know. And so if we just randomly say, you get food A, you get food B, you get food C, then over thousands of kids, that washes out and takes controls for any differences. And that's a hard thing to do. It takes a lot of supervision. We didn't have any trouble with them accepting it because everyone was getting something, and they were prior to that getting nothing. And here we have these four sets of curves, okay, and the green and the blue are the peanut-based food. One has cow pea in it, one has milk in it, and the pig is a porridge. And so what we mean by cognition is we mean, how well does the brain work? How well does the brain take in information, process it, and respond to it? Okay, so it's not about adding or reading or some kind of competency like that. It's really just how quickly the brain works. And we use something called an AH toolbox to evaluate. We use 4 different tests. And some of these tests, I mean, people here would find hard. You're showing 6 animals and 6 foods, and then you have to recite the names of those 12 things back in order of all the animals first, smallest to biggest, all the foods first, smallest to biggest. So it isn't necessarily a very trivial exercise, although it does start in a pretty simple way. You can see the kids with the tablet up there being tested. Tablet records the score, so it is not subjective in any way about who's getting the right answer or not. And here we have, these are just different tests, these 4 different panels. And you can see that the blue and the green, but particularly the blue lines, the median line, the average lines are more toward the right side of the page. And that means they're higher, and that means they're processing more information more quickly and more accurately. And that's a kind of asset that's going to be good for a whole variety of settings, not just school going forward, but when you go later in life, if you have an opportunity, work opportunity that's not being a subsistence farmer, having that is, this is shown, after a year, and we started tiering the tests. So we started, they tested everyone at the beginning, and then after 2 months, and then after like 5 or 6 months, and then finally after like 10 or 11 months, and you see the effect right away, and you see the effect sustained. So it's doing something good. And that's really the scientific aspect of the study that I think is a game changer. Because if you ask many people about school food, they would say, well, it's a way to try to make people come to school. I mean, that's normally what an aid project would say about moving school food, not a way to have people think better or quicker. So we're adding value in that area quite a bit. And these are showing you here. I would look at this line, it's a dots, there's a vertical line, and you see all the dots are almost always toward to the right, like Dave Boyington over there, and that favors the peanut food. So in other words, if you're older, if you're younger, if you're a boy, if you're a girl, so forth, they're all having a benefit to getting this intervention. It's not specific particularly to an age group or something else, or these kinds of the 4 sections of the 4 different tests. So the conclusion is, as you probably got the idea, that when we go through, talk to the community, when we talk to the, look at the cognitive tests, when we look at the attendance at the school, when we look at the numbers of children in the community are participating, that adding this anchor of school food is
transformational. It's allowing education to happen. Now, let's talk a little bit about what we want to say is more typical school feeding to happen. They will often be starting out by saying hot, home-cooked meal. And in Ghana, has on in its plan one of the most comprehensive, best plans for school feeding. It involves lots and lots of different ministries and culturally appropriate things and lots of diversity in the diet. And I'm sure if that would be able to be implemented, that would also be pretty good. But the honest truth, when you measure it, is in Ghana, how many days a month do they get this? Well, it's three days a month, okay? So there's something wrong with this perfect plan. And the thing that's wrong with the perfect plan is that this relies on too many links. Local cooks and local food availability and funds to buy the ingredients and what this particular ready-to-use food does is it delivers everything in a package. There's no cutlery needed. Package, as you probably notice, is designed to be consumed. And what we saw in these children, people will say, some people might say, well, but I mean, what about that, doctor? I mean, are they really gonna be able to do that for a long period of time? A full school year, uniformly, everybody who got this food is tearing open those packages and licking every crevice clean every day. They like it. They're not having any problem with the diversity of this particular food. Add some milk to it, you're getting some cognitive benefit. How does that line up with cost? Well, the Ghana government says they're allowing 25 cents a day for this, their school feeding program. This costs 16 cents a day. So it's hitting the range of that. So what else I would say about it is you've seen in other studies the effect on anthropometry. We couldn't see it here. It has to do with the children being a bit older. My message is that we're up here about being slow and prosperous planet. We're going to need to do that. We're going to have to strengthen the education systems in sub-Saharan Africa. In order to do that, we're going to have to make schools be a place where most people are moving through and the basic educational capacities are met by most people. And you can't do that honestly without some kind of food. The advantages of this food is not and is produced locally. The food that we do and is using local peanuts. So that's not the a limiting factor. Can be in situations where they don't have the resources to produce peanuts are very durable and will be sent as a food aid. That's about. What was I going to say? Oh, where might we go with the next steps with the Indian Innovation Lab, which pretend to respect to school feeding? So we did this a year. We did it very carefully, and we showed those results. But before we're going to get some buy-in for like a whole country transformation on this, we're going to have to do this a little bit longer, and we're going to have to do it with a more accurate measurement of attendance. Attendance was taken by the teachers here. And quite honestly, there's some subjectivity in that. There's a motive for the teachers to report good attendance because they say good attendance is success, and that might make the school food continue to be available for them. So we would like to set up a attendance and matriculation tracking system that's more objective, more airtight, using biometric fingerprints, where we can tell you that what attendance was before and what attendance is after, and how much difference school food is making. We'd like to set up a area in northern Ghana, which is a focus area for USAID, where a variety of issues that where peanuts value chain can make a positive impact can be explored So Dave alluded to issues with gender and who's agriculturally benefiting from these peanuts, and opportunities for youth, things that are more climate friendly and resilient. And scale this up in this district. My district's about 90,000 people, and it's got one of those African population curves where half of it is before the age of 16 or 18 or something. So, you know, I think in that district, there might be about 10,000 or so kids in those districts. And if we could do that, we then really have something that we could offer all over Africa. And if we did a clinical trial, again, using really strictly with a lot of good evidence, district-wide, objective outcomes, we can look and see what happens, how this affects girls. But you notice empirically, if you go to these schools, there's a lot of girls and boys who are 5 and 6, and then you get up to about age 12, and it's sort of like 4-to-1, boys to girls. The girls are dropping out and doing other things at home. And once you drop out, you don't usually just go back. Like, it's usually you drop out, your chances of going back are diminished, quite diminished. We want to keep these kids in school. And that's about what I have to say. I'm open for a couple of questions if people have it. I've been unclear about different things, but I'll be around too. So,
what are you looking for to implement this?
Can you repeat the question so everyone can hear it?
okay. George Brinson asked, what are we looking for to implement this? I think we're looking for support through USAID, through the Innovation Lab, or otherwise to create this complete value chain in my industry. You know, so buying the school food, that kind of thing. Sir.
Mark, my name is Paul Aberdini, and I work for USDA FAS, the McGovern Dole Project, School Feeding Project. I appreciate all of your comments on school feeding in Ghana in particular. We look to Ghana as a leader in school feeding. We look at them as not needing McGovern Dole support because their literacy rate is too high. So it's just very interesting to hear you say that they're only feeding 3 days a week. Was that information that your team gathered on like by doing local assessments and things?
Right. So that's not information that I would say is going to. We didn't survey nationally, right, and selectively to places all over the place.
Correct.
This is up
What you saw locally. Okay.
Yes, what we saw in mind.
And one other question. I manage a project in Liberia with Save the Children. And under McGovern Dole now, we're allowed to use 10% of the funding for what we call local and regional procurement for homegrown school feeding WFP. And do you have any plans to export your product for sale locally in the region? We have the bulk of our McGovern Dole projects are in West Africa, and all of them have LRP funds where they could purchase an LNS in the region and use in-kind food aid money for that.
Sure.
Sort of like what Pat does in Haiti. We have a McGovern Dole project with the World Food Program, and they could use LRP funding to purchase from Pat's factory. So it would be good to have another product on the market for us to use. Thank you.
So we were in Ghana, so Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast. So if you're thinking about Liberia, then open that highway on the west side of the country. You know, it's a beautiful Chinese.
We're in Sierra Leone.
And I know that our focus of our intervention district, which is not about school feeding, is in children which borders like. So I'm sure that we could arrange for access to that.
It's great, wonderful presentation. Thank you,
Judy.
Thanks, Mark, for your presentation. Really enjoyed it. My question is a little bit about the impact of the milk-based peanut school product versus cow feed. considering the cost of powdered milk for Africa, you presented figures of the milk base versus the cow feed, but what about the cow feed versus the porridge?
Yeah, so we didn't see as large differences that were significant between the cow feed and the forage, or otherwise. So the cow feed one sits in between. It doesn't surprise us that milk improves cognition, because we did a study in Brahma where all we used was, or all that was different was milk powder. And milk forage was the milk powder sprinkled in versus forage, which didn't have milk powder sprinkled in, and we saw with a different kind of cognitive pattern, Cambridge something, and whatever test. We saw that back in 2016 as well. What it is about milk, I mean, what is it about peanut? I think you've heard this message, but people would say, it's not, in my mind, it's not a magic ingredient. It's the fact that peanut is allows for more widespread and pedestrian distribution. Peanut, that's what opened. It's not that when the kids with severe malnutrition were just failing because giving them liquid milk is a bad idea. It was because giving liquid milk was too hard, too dirty, too irregular to make a difference. And then peanut democratizes that and allows it to be spread in a very food safe way. And that's not a trivial quality about peanut. It's, you know, it's not some bioactive that probably that's the deal there. It's the low water quality. There's no other crop that I know of, big one anyway, that's 50% fat at dry weight, which peanut is. Okay, so that's not a great idea for North America, maybe. But in sub-Saharan Africa, that's a great idea. We can bring it in. Pat.
Yeah, so I'm just assuming that all of these three products were equal in vitamin and mineral.
They were. We have the very same vitamins. I mean, they all got a packet of sprinkles, essentially.
Yeah.
Question online as well. So, so the online question from Jisheng Wang is there laboratory evidence such as outcomes of blood chemistry and urinary analysis to support your conclusions? And he has a few follow-up questions after that.
So you don't know of any blood tests that measure cognition? So no. We didn't test anybody's blood for any.
And then the follow-up question, since age group is 5 to 12 years, how is the significance in each age group? So
well, when we broke it down, we didn't see a difference. We saw a benefit for 5-year-olds and a benefit for 12.
And finally, did you see any differences between gender?
No. One question, that's it. Did I see something in there? No. That's it. Way back there.
Because the debate is often needs to be separate. So to calculate the time
I get your point.
Sorry. The Ghanaian school meals program is often very budget constrained what they're paying the caterers each week. So I was just curious if you did any budget analysis about how many children could be fed with certain budgets and any policy conversations to support the program, the products used in Ghana.
Right. So what we did is that we didn't do a cost analysis of what it would actually a functioning home hot prepared meal would be there, but that's true. We don't know how much it costs us to deliver the packet, 16 cents. That includes everything about it and delivering it to the school. And we know that the Ghanaian government says that they think to deliver their program is 25 cents. And that's what, in short, I think that they're, you know, the adage is so real and so true in Africa, you know, that we go to hell as people's good intentions, your intentions, but they deliver it. Rob.
Thanks for a great presentation, Mark. Just a question, back on the question on gender differences. So I think you answered no differences biologically.
Yes.
But the point that came out in the presentation about retention of girls in school is huge, right? I mean,
Right.
so I just want to reinforce that there are big gender differences based on that finding, which are very, very important.
Yes, very good point. And I can imagine, so this is primary school, and we'd like to go ahead and expand that to middle school.
Maybe I can just add here that we know across sectors that girls' education is right at the top of all development investments. So something that helps keep girls in school is very important in many different aspects. Fertility, family size, economic opportunity, all kinds of child nutrition gain, everything.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're gonna call out the questions, I think, you're right, Stephanie. So.
Yeah.
Pat, you can find me.
Yeah, I'm sure we're getting lots of questions online, questions here for the people who are here. We've booked another half hour or so for you to mingle and talk to some of our producers who are here. We have a DCO with us. We have Mena, producers of these peanut mix foods. We have representatives from the Innovation Lab. We have MFK Haiti is here to talk about their work in Haiti. And we also have the Peanut Institute, and thank you, the Peanut Institute, for applying our lunch today. Everybody be sure to thank Marion. Thanks to all of you who came, all of you who logged on from all kinds of time zones in Africa, etc. I think the main message that we want to take away, in addition to the power of peanuts, of course, is power of partnerships. So I kind of want to give a special shout out to 3 peanut industry groups, Swartz Birdsong and Jeff Johnson are here from Birdsong Peanuts, the largest peanut shelling company in the United States, who have funded this study in Ghana. And also Bob Parker and Sherry Coleman Collins are back there from the National Peanut Board, which is the U.S. grower checkoff. And they also put some money into pay for this, help pay for this study. So we obviously, as the U.S. peanut industry, is important. And we hope that this lunch will generate some new partners. So thank you to the people on Zoom. We're going to release you and hope you're enjoying your lunch, and we still have time for now.